What's up, YouTube? How you guys doing tonight? And what's going on Twitch? It's Big Ride today. What's up, Big Dick Donnie? Fat Man's not here again tonight. He's at work. How you doing tonight? Mic check 1 2. Can you hear me? I'm not sure if I can hear myself. Oh yeah, I'm there. I'm just quiet. Need to turn myself up a little bit. Oh, you can hear me loud and clear? Okay, perfect. Yeah, Fat Guy and I are working on a project right now, fantasy-wise, to get ready for the season. So hopefully that'll be ready for you soon. But it's going to take us a little bit of time to compile all the data and get everything working straight. What are you guys talking about fantasy-wise right now? What's my opinion on doing individual defense players? I think it'd be a lot of fun. I've never actually been in a league that's done defensive players, but anytime you can add more strategy to some sort of competition, I'd say go for it. I'd love to be drafting like linebackers and corners. I know the Fat Guy has a couple of friends in that group of them. They like to bet on like over-unders, and they do drafts for interceptions, touchdowns, tackles, pretty much anything you could think of stat-wise. And so the three of them will draft like teams of 10. So they'll pick like the top 10 guys they think are going to get sacks. So if you got a couple friends and you want to do something like that, you should do that. You throw like whatever your bankroll is on each one. If you guys want to do $5 for each thing, or $100 each thing, whatever you guys want to do. I'm just trying to catch up from these games so far. I just got back from work, ate, just like you. Now it's time to watch all these football games. There's 4 games on right now, and if I'm not mistaken, yeah, 5 o'clock's gonna roll around pretty soon. See if this works. I'm going to throw on the sound for Redskins Bengals so I can hear what's going on. Redskins look like they're in the red zone or pretty close. It's nice to see a lot of the starters playing. You're curious about Geis and his health because if he's out, I want some AP. Yeah, no kidding. I kind of want to look over those Washington running backs today. I saw that story. I had a friend and he has a keeper league and he has Gurley, Freeman, Devontae Freeman, a couple other guys, and he was thinking about trading Deontay Freeman for Darius Geis, but I told him not to. If you got Gurley right now, you should be competing every year, because he was thinking about rebuilding. And I don't care what the health problems are for Gurley. The guy's just too good if he's playing. Okay, let's pull up this Redskins running back situation. Yeah, we've got... You trade Freeman for Geis? I don't know if I would. I haven't seen Geis play yet. He's been hurt, so I can't go all in. And Freeman's really good. Like, I think Freeman's underrated. He was injured last year, but he's healthy coming into this season. He's got way less competition now that Tevin Coleman's gone, and he's a lot better than Ito Smith. So unless Atlanta has a rookie that I just don't know about that can compete, like, Freeman's going to play a lot. Whereas Geis has to compete with... he's not going to play passing downs because that's Chris Thompson. And then you got Adrian Peterson, who's just as good, if not better, than Geis. And then Samaj P. Ryan as well, who hasn't been great, but he's no slouch. Yeah, Freeman isn't always healthy. That's a good point. I don't trust him stepping up, though. I don't know. Freeman's been really good when he has played, but the injury stuff is noteworthy. Lamar Jackson just scored a really, really nice rushing touchdown, but there's a flag on the play, so it might be coming back. Andy Dalton's in for a second series. He threw a pick six the first series, but the ball got tipped, so you can't really blame him. But still, he threw it, it got tipped, and pick six, so he's not scot-free either. Looks like we got Clayton Thorson in at quarterback for the Eagles. Player I haven't seen play yet. We should have the Raiders game starting pretty soon. Yeah, it's good to see Antonio Brown there. I've been watching the first 2 episodes of Hard Knocks for the Raiders. It's been entertaining. I know not having Brown there has been kind of a nuisance for the Raiders. He'll be fine, but it's everyone around him that needs him there to get better. Sam Darnold had an impressive first drive. Oh well. Falcons just punted to the Jets. We'll see if Darnold gets back on the field. I wouldn't mind seeing at least one more drive tonight. Yeah, you see him having a good year. The coaching is better, at least offensively. And I don't know, he's a year older, has some experience. It's always that first year that's tough for any rookies. And Bell will help big time. Bell's my favorite player. Le'Veon is just so good. And they've got some good weapons there, surprisingly. Like Quincy Enunwa, he's back and healthy. Robbie Anderson. Big Dick Donnie, how many drafts are you in this year and when are they? Have you got a date set yet? Trying to get a sense of when people are drafting. Yeah. Anderson went from being one of the guys that I actually thought his first year he was the worst receiver in the league. That was playing at least. And he made such improvements last year. August 28th? Okay, good. So you still have a long time to go. Right now I only have one league I'm in, and it's actually that same night, the 28th. Seems like a good day to be drafting. Two leagues? Are they both on the 28th? This was an interesting story I saw. A guy making roster projections for the Chiefs. The Athletics' Nate Taylor projected Carlos Hyde wouldn't make the roster. Surely based on more than this, but his explanation is in the article is mostly related to Hyde's quiet preseason opener. Hyde can find his way back on the roster with a good performance against the Steelers. That's not usually how it works for a veteran like Hyde. His spot figures to be won or lost in practice. We would still guess Hyde makes it, though all signs in recent days have pointed toward Damian Williams maintaining a stranglehold on number one duties. It's interesting. I don't usually believe projection stuff like that when it comes to people. I'll believe it when it's a fact and he gets cut. But to me, Hyde's one of the better running backs in the league. It'd be silly to let him go, unless it's a salary. Unless it's like a salary cap thing. That's the only thing I could think of. They actually paid Damian Williams pretty nicely. It is his 6th year. Yeah, the second league hasn't set a date yet. It'll probably be closer to when the season's starting. If I had to guess, after the 28th. That's a $100 buy-in league. Oh yeah, so that's the important one, I'm guessing. Oh, nice. Get to see some Josh Jacobs action from Oakland. He actually looks kind of small. Derek Carr and Tyrell Williams might be good together. It was an excellent throw and catch there. Derek Carr might be the best fade thrower in the league. And Tyrell Williams goes up, catches the ball at high contact, makes the catch. Defense also gets a penalty for hitting him in the helmet. Buda Baker, the helmet-to-helmet hit. Excellent catch from Tyrell Williams. Well, getting his bell rung. They're using a lot of Josh Jacobs on this first drive by Oakland, which is nice. I'm liking it. Getting to get a feel of what Josh Jacobs is about. Yeah, Derek Carr's playing. He just threw a really nice fade ball to Tyrell Williams. I've been watching Hard Knocks, and they have Glennon and Peterman as backups, and man, that's actually two pretty good backups to have in the league, but those guys, if Carr gets hurt, they're going to be in trouble. Oakland's in the red zone, 2nd and 9. Carr checks down to Ryan Grant, touchdown. Raiders. Just a broken coverage from Arizona. Yeah, if Carr gets hurt, they are fucked. And it's not that either of those backup quarterbacks aren't good quarterbacks, they're just terrible leaders. They're not showing very good replays, so I couldn't tell what the coverage was doing it. They could sign Kaepernick, yeah. Sure. Kaepernick would have to get the Teddy Bridgewater. He'd have to get like the $7 million deal and then be a backup somewhere. So it's going to be hard to get. Because the ceiling on Bridgewater is so much higher than Kaepernick. You have to remember that Kaepernick played on like essentially like a Hall of Fame team. There was like 7 guys that were like perennial Pro Bowlers or like future Hall of Famers. Like that team was so good. It's safe to say that the Raiders are going to be better than they were last year, but by how much? That's not too sure. That talks to how bad they were last year. Carr was just bad last year. Carr needs to be better. So hopefully a second year with Gruden will be more comforting. Less learning and more doing. This is the first live stream I've done where there's multiple games going. I'm having a tough time keeping up with what's going on in each game. Yeah, Chiefs are favored to win the division. Let's see. Yeah, we have the Chiefs winning right now with 9.91 wins. Then we got the Chargers at 8.95, and then it's a pretty steep drop from Denver to Oakland. The Broncos will be shit, yeah. It'll be interesting to see how Flacco does there. Flacco hasn't been very good, but he's had the same coach, which technically he should be better. If you got the same coach, you got the same system. So the Broncos start out by going to Oakland to play, which is likely a loss. Then they play home to Chicago, which is pretty much a coin flip. It's tough to play in Denver. That's the one thing about the Broncos. Then they travel to Green Bay, which is that's gonna be a tough game to win. Then they play home to Jacksonville, which is pretty much it's a game that they should win, but that's not much better than like the league average to win at home. Then they play they play the Chargers in LA, which is going to be a tough game. They play home to Tennessee, which is okay. Home to Kansas City, which will be tough. At Indy, which they'll probably lose. They play home against Cleveland. That's kind of shitty for them. Then they play at Minnesota, which is going to be probably a loss. At Buffalo. That'll be a tough game. They play the Chargers at home. Houston and Kansas City both on the road. Those are both tough games. And then they finish off with Detroit and Oakland both at home, which are both games they could win. That's going to be tough. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We only have them favored to win 5 games. But they'll probably finish with about 6 wins. The tough thing with Denver is that defense is still really good. You can't count them out because of the defense. It's just whether their offense can put anything together. If that offense can't stay on the field, that defense is in trouble, and then that team's in trouble. So it's funny to think, it's kind of how Baltimore's been, which is ironic because that's exactly where Flacco came from. But if that offense can just stay on the field and sustain drives, they don't even need to score points, they just need to sustain drives. Then they'll be okay. Nice, we get to see some Kyler Murray now. This Arizona-Oakland game actually has quite a few interesting players to watch. It's too bad that Geis is still injured. I'd really like to see him play, to get a gauge of how he'll be this year. I'm not sure who's in at quarterback for the Bengals. Maybe Jeff Driscoll. He just made a quite a nice play. No. Looks like Ryan Finley. I missed Kyler Murray's first. You're gonna try to get Murray in the 11th round? Yeah, I don't mind that. The longer you can wait. Who I'm going to target is Lamar Jackson. He's going pretty, like, he's like the 20th ranked quarterback, but when we first did our projections, we had him as the third best quarterback. If you want to be safe, if you go between a Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson combo, you're going to be able to kind of like spot start those guys or find matchups you like. For quarterback, for me, I always wait till the end. I pretty much don't draft a quarterback until the very end. So waiting till the 11th to get Kyler Murray, I think is a good idea. I wonder how much he's going to run. Like if he's doing a lot on the ground, then he's pretty valuable. I feel like you know exactly what you're going to get with Jackson, but I think the part that scares me, which probably scares you too, is the injury factor. Like if that guy, if he has like 300 carries, like I just don't know how he's going to stay healthy. But fantasy-wise, it's essentially playing a running back at quarterback, which is not too bad. You think Kyler Murray's going to check down to David Johnson a lot? Yeah, Jackson's interceptions. I'm definitely not drafting him to throw the ball. But his run attempts last year, and he played only like half the games. Or started in half the games, I should say. It was crazy. Ravens D-line makes a play. Jonathan Hankins. Holds David Johnson to no gain there. Arden Key jumps offside there. Ooh, they some reason call it on Kyler Murray instead. Wow. That was bizarre. So this is an interesting play. They just called a false start on Kyler Murray for clapping his hands before the snap, but he claps his hands before every snap. Like, they don't use a cadence. Instead, he claps. So it's quite the interesting thing that they just called it. I also have no clue how that's going to work when they play on the road against a loud defense. Like, I don't know how clapping is going to be, how you're going to hear a clap. We got Mike Glennon coming in. I know if they play in Kansas City or they play in Seattle, which obviously they will, they're not going to be able to hear that. They're going to have to figure that out. And on top of that, if they're getting penalties for him clapping, like, I don't know how you can keep doing that. Ty Montgomery played the first series for the Jets. He looked really good. Ty Montgomery played really well in Green Bay too. It's hard to believe they let him go. I can't remember what they got in return for him because I'm pretty sure it was a trade. We got Clinton Portis on the sidelines for the Redskins interviewing, looks like Daron Payne. Clinton Portis might be one of the better media guys if I had to pick a guy to go from player to media. They should put him up in the booth with Tony Romo. Nice. We get to see Jimmy Garoppolo play for the first time this season on Monday. Romo's the worst. You don't like him on play-by-play? It's funny because they have DeAndre Washington and Josh Johnson. I actually thought it was DeAndre Washington. That's how similar they look. DeAndre Washington looks small, so Josh Johnson looks small too. Sorry, Josh Jacobs, not Josh Johnson. You mute all the commentary. That makes sense. That's probably why you're listening to someone like me instead of all the commentary going on right now. Are you watching any of the games? Darren Waller looks way more rangy than I remember. Yeah, I was trying to figure that out last stream. You said it was like 6 a.m. your time, so I figured you were somewhere out there. You don't have a TV, you watch the box scores and the injury reports. You're gonna be back in the States in a few months. Are you there for work? Are you there for fun? What takes you there? Work and play. Nice. That sounds fun. Lennon on third down. Third and goal had Darren Waller wide open back to the end zone. He overthrew him. Yeah, I'm in Canada. West coast of Canada, so pretty big time difference. When the games are getting started, I'm just coming home from my job. You know who else was good? Was Joe Mixon on the first drive. What amazes me with Joe Mixon is that he just doesn't get tired. It makes me think one of these seasons he's just gonna pretty much play every down. Oh, whereabouts are you in Alaska? Touchdown Baltimore, Chris Moore. Yeah, Mixon's definitely underrated. Nice, you're in Anchorage. Is it summer solstice right there? Or is it summer solstice there right now? Excellent defense from Washington on a 4th and 1. Oh, sorry, it wasn't 4th down, it was a 3rd down. That summer solstice looks pretty, it's pretty crazy to see it be like 4 in the morning and it's bright as day. I watched Dave Attell's Insomniacs where he went to Anchorage. And it just looks like it's 2 p.m. in the afternoon and it's like 4 a.m. People are stumbling around drunk on the street. Pure daylight. It's pretty awesome. Looks like a lot of fun. Jonathan Abram with an excellent tackle on David Johnson.
That's what John Gruden likes from Abram. He's around the ball. He's a ball hawk. Now, he's not as big as John Lynch. He may not be as quick as Ronnie Walker. But when you look at the total package, he's going to cover tight ends, come down the middle,
Yeah, it's It's just bizarre. It's weird how the sunlight brings people outside, regardless of the time. I'm the opposite. I'd rather be out when it's dark. But it's hard to mow your lawn when it's pitch dark outside. David Johnson broke a 16-yard run there. Bounced it to the outside, but it's coming back on a hold by, I believe, Ricky Seals-Jones. Yeah, number 86 on the Cardinals. Another false start on Kyler Murray. 6 penalties on Arizona in the first 11 minutes of the game. Yeah, well, it's one thing to like the dark. It's another thing for you to have no choice but to be dark for months at a time. That would be tough. Kyler Murray pulls the Russell Wilson 270-degree spin. Weird. So the coach and the referee talk before the game about the clap. So they're like essentially targeting him for this clap. Makes no sense. I don't know what the exact rule is on what the quarterback can and can't do, but they're obviously breaking it. 2 calls like in the first 8 snaps. It's crazy. Ooh. Oh, nice. We got some Dwayne Haskins action in the Redskins game. They just picked up a first down. Play action for Haskins. He hits a receiver in his hands, but I can't cut down the ball. So it was a really good pass from Haskins. And just a drop for number 19. If he does miss, he tends to miss high. How about that guy should catch the ball? It's crazy. Big Dick Donnie, I'm about to mute these guys too. they got so much P. Ryan in the game. Oh, P. Ryan came out with a little bit of a limp. I forget how young these guys are that come into the league, man. Some of them look like babies. Not that I look old or anything like that, but I don't know. Some of these guys seem so young. You could throw Haskins in that realm. I'm interested to see how Nick Foles does in Jacksonville. You miss Madden? They used to put Stickum on their hands. But yeah, it's hard to know. It's hard to like anybody after Madden. Big touchdown for Oakland. Let's see who it was. Rico Gafford with a 53-yard touchdown from Glennon. So it's play action. Yeah, he just throws it long. Gafford, no one 7 yards. No one within 7 yards of him. Holy, that cornerback got blown by. 28. Who was that? Beatrick Nichols. Second year undrafted free agent. He got burned there. Holy. Gruden is losing his shit. You're worried about Foles because he doesn't have enough weapons? Let's see what we got. Obviously Fournette. Then at running back, it's pretty empty after that. And then at receiver, yeah. Conley, Marquise Lee, Westbrook, Keelan Cole, DJ Shark. I'm actually going to bring Marquise Lee down. I still don't think he's healthy enough. I like Westbrook and Cole. But the rest of these guys I could care less about. And Terrell Pryor is underrated. I don't know how healthy he is. Tight end is terrible. Oh, this might be like the worst tight end group in the league. That's gross. They do have Cam Robinson though. Andrew Norwell who should bounce back. Brandon Linder who's really good. AJ Can's alright, and Jawan Taylor. Will Richardson. Yeah, you're right. One of these receivers has to show though. Out of these guys, someone's got to show. Conley, Lee, Westbrook, Keelan Cole, DJ Shark, Terrell Pryor. It'll be interesting to see who kind of solidifies themselves. Hopefully someone does, and it's not like it was last year where they just kind of cycled through all these guys. They like Marquise Lee a lot, though. Even though he's been injured so much, they paid him $8 million. Why? Why? Marquise Lee doesn't deserve $8 million for what he's done in this league. Nice, Vontez Burfict playing. Murray overthrows Fitzgerald. The coverage was excellent. I don't think Murray had much of a choice. I guess he could have ran. Who was it with the coverage? Number 29. It was LaMarcus Joyner. I'm surprised the coverage was so good by Joyner. That's a pass that Kyler Murray has to drop over top so Fitzgerald can make a play. Joyner's just so small. That was good. But they called offensive pass interference, man. These refs have been all over the Cardinals to start this game. They're losing 17-0 right now. Still 2 minutes left in the first quarter, and they can't even sustain. They can't get a first down. Yeah, 167 yards for the Raiders to 22 for Arizona. They haven't been able to get anything started, and like they've got Kyler Murray out there, Larry Fitzgerald, David Johnson. It's a little bit troublesome. Arizona, excellent special teams play there. With the punt was long, and then the coverage was even better. You're always worried about guys kind of over kicking the coverage, but I don't. It's like Pearson L or something. He didn't look very good on that return. I gotta see who I've missed here. No one. Why is it showing blanks? Let me take a look at Oakland's defense. We've got a lot of depth on the defensive line, at least up front. Rushing the passer is where it's going to be a big question. Who knows if Farrell's going to be any good? He was picked 4th overall, but like he was supposed to be like a late first round pick, and he ended up going 4th. It was one of the bigger reaches of the draft. I know the fat guy was doing some over-under bets and trying to pick exact picks. He actually had a bet going with a couple friends, another one of those drafts where they had to pick every pick in the first round. And I think he had Farrell going at the end of the first round, and he ended up going 4th. That's going to be tough. It's going to be interesting to see if they can rush the passer. They could be good because they got good players everywhere else. Corner's pretty weak though. This is not good. Conley and Daryl Worley as your starting outside corners, with Nevin Lawson playing on the inside. Jonathan Abrams might be good though. This is actually a pretty nice safety group with Abram and Joyner, as well as Carl Joseph. And it looks like they're going to play Joyner in like a slot role. So he might him and Nevin Lawson. Might be guys that kind of fill up that slot role. It looks like they value that slot corner role more than the outside, because on the outside they're not very good. But the slot guys, the guys that play inside here, these guys are all good. And then they brought in Daniel Carlson as the kicker, which is interesting. AJ Cole. This has Mike Mayock written all over it, both of these. And then just so much. Look at how much they paid these wide receivers. $27 million to bring in guys to play with. Derek Carr. That's something. And they lost. They just let go of Jared Cook, huh? Just replaced it with nothing. Replaced it with a blocking tight end. Ryan Grant had a nice touchdown earlier in the game. That's Rico Gafford. Oh, there it is. First year undrafted player going long. That'll be Antonio Brown during the season, making those types of catches. Oh yeah, Antonio Brown's warming up for pregame. He's dressed, but he's not playing today.
Neutral zone infraction. Number 91, defense. 5-yard penalty. First down. Lisa caught up with
Marcel Laven with the catch. A nice catch. He's just such a big body. I got a feeling he might make the team and kind of be the backup for Tyrell Williams if Tyrell Williams gets injured. Same height, a little bit heavier. He also might play a little bit of tight end, or at least like a move tight end position. Now Jalen Richard's in the game. Touchdown for Ito Smith in the Falcons game. Haskins threw a really nice ball. He stood in the pocket, took a hit, made the deep ball for a 50-plus yard touchdown. You like Haskins and you were surprised he fell that far in the draft? Yeah. Guess it just depends on teams being quarterback needy. It's too bad that Alex Smith got hurt to the point where they needed to draft a quarterback. Alex Smith, I think, is one of the better quarterbacks in the league. Yeah, if Haskins... Sounds like Case Keenum's going to start, but if Haskins has to play, should be a fun season at least to watch the Redskins. They'll be up and down, inconsistent. Oh, Doug Martin is playing. It's the first I've seen him tonight. Oh, they got the fade. That looks good. Good catch. Derek Carrier with the touchdown. That's a surprising play. Yeah, 23-0 pending an extra point from the Raiders. Glennon drops a dime. He beat number 30 on the Cardinals. Yeah, 5'11" safety. Rudy Ford, 6th-round pick from 2017. Philly, Jacksonville's in the third quarter. Score is only 7-3 for Philly. Seems like a lot of backups playing in that game. I'll be back in just a moment. I'm gonna grab some more water. Looks like it's halftime for most of these games. The only one on right now on my screen is Philly Jacksonville. Big Dick Donnie, what guys are you interested to see in the preseason play and come into the season as rookies, or guys that might have been coming off of injuries, or just guys that are on new teams? Wow. Jacksonville, someone screwed up a coverage there. The tight end essentially came to a standstill, caught the ball, was able to keep running after that. Number 3rd. $39. Kyler Murray for sure. Odell Beckham with Baker. You want to see Flacco suck with the Broncos and see how Saquon does with teams stacking the box against him. Yeah, those are all good things to see. I feel like Murray, Odell, and Barkley are probably fantasy related, whereas Flacco is just out of your pure enjoyment. Looks like Kyler Murray just took a safety. If it could get any worse for Arizona, it just did. And Josh Jacobs with the Raiders. I was just surprised with how small Josh Jacobs looked. I thought he was a lot bigger. Murray had pressure coming in, and he went to escape by going backwards, but he lost his balance. Threw himself into the end zone and then got touched down by Arden Key in the end zone. Yeah, LaMarcus Joyner actually got the actually caused the safety by Kyler Murray. How big is Josh Jacobs again? Just looks small to me. 5'10", 219, so that makes sense. He reminded me of DeAndre Washington, who's 5'8", 205, so he's actually a little bit bigger. I think it was just the camera angle made him look small while running. was a good contract for LaMarcus Joyner, for him personally. I know I wouldn't want. I don't think I'd want him as my free safety back there because he's just so small. But he's been really good in this week 2 preseason game, covering Fitzgerald earlier with the safety now. And they seem to. It seems like they're going to be using him in like a hybrid role, like playing slot corner, playing closer to the line of scrimmage, which is interesting. Jacobs had all the first team work with Derek Carr, as far as I can remember, and then it's been a mix of these other 3. Otherwise, I think Eric Weddle does excellent with the Rams. He's one of the best safeties in the league. He's been one of the best safeties every season. I'd much rather have Eric Weddle than LaMarcus Joyner, let's put it that way. So Weddle we have listed as an 83 overall, which makes him like he's kind of like a great player, I guess you could say. Not quite like a Pro Bowl player, but he's a great player. You can't ask for much more than what he's done. And he's only getting paid $5 million. So technically, LaMarcus Joyner is making over $10 million. Eric Weddle's making $5 million. He went there to compete. Like, it might be starting to fall off for him, and he's willing to take a little bit less, but Weddle's going to be a better player overall than Joyner was for them. That secondary for the Rams is good. And then Corey Littleton, he had such a good year last year. They bring in Clay Matthews, Dante Fowler as well, Samson Ebukam. And then doesn't hurt to have Aaron Donald, Michael Brockers. They're pretty thin at D-tackle after that. They're actually pretty thin on the whole defensive line. Something you can do against the Rams is if you can sustain drives, which is obviously hard to do, but if you can keep those guys on the field and keep them tired, that's the best chance you have of beating them. At least beating that defense. It's tough when you have Gurley that can just grind out yards and sustain drives the other way around, because if the Rams can stay on the field offensively, that defense is just so dangerous. Like, if Donald's only having to play 50 snaps a game rather than 70 or 80, just a scary team. I think we actually might have them as the top rated team. I have to double check. Yeah. By quite a bit. They're a full win better than the Saints, who was the second best team. So it's a fun time to be a Rams fan, Donnie.
So it wouldn't surprise me if we don't see that broaden. We've seen plenty of other things broaden in the recent years. After the competition committee meets and the owners have a chance to talk about it, play action rolling out. There's the dump off. Catch is made. That's Donnie Ernsberger.
So halftime's kind of up for a lot of these teams, or a lot of these games, I should say. Excellent tackle by the Jets corner Brown, number 25, on the screen. What's going on, Joe? Thanks for the love. First time for this playing fantasy football draft. 2 teams now. You're drafting right now? How many teams are in the league? It's too bad it wasn't a little bit later, Joe. We're just making something to help people out with their drafts. But a lot of it's dependent on odds from bookmakers and what they have for over-unders and totals for players. So we just haven't put it all together quite yet. It's a 12-team league. Is it PPR or is it just normal scoring? Free league, so you don't care. Yeah, fantasy definitely makes Sundays a little more fun. It's hard for me to be super invested in games if I don't have some money or don't have some fantasy implications. PPR league. See, I've never played a PPR league for fantasy, so I'm not sure how valuable it is to have a receiver versus like a receiving back. Baltimore is on the goal line against the Packers. Can't see who's at running back. Oh, excellent. What a run. Number 43. I think it's Hill. Just going to pull it off. That was a really good run. He broke like he was going to go outside. And when containment came to cut him off, he cut it right back in. Justice Hill, 200 pounds, 5'10". Not exactly the prototypical goal line back, but he made it work there. He was deceptive. Yeah. Games are just so much more fun when you got some money on it, even if it's just a couple bucks. Keeps you invested. It'll be interesting to see, Joe. We've done a lot of our projection stuff. We've got all this stuff ready. You can even put in, I can share one of these sheets with you. You can put in your own data and get your own projections. Yeah, I agree with the fat man almost always. Yeah, it's just proven to go with the market factors. Anytime you can be betting against the public with anything, it's a good thing. I'm enjoying the stock market right now too. Everyone's pulling their money out. It's the best time to be putting money in.
with how smart he is up front and identifying things.
I know it's still way too early to look at the upcoming percentages, but there's got to be some good opportunities this first week. Hopefully for all of us. What's going on? What's the lowest right now? Chicago only has 29% at -3 at home opening Thursday night. Minnesota only 25%, but that line's very surprising. They're -4.5. Miami only has 28% at +4 at home against Baltimore. That's not too bad. Tampa Bay as well. They're a pick'em versus San Fran at home. Carolina 2 against Carolina as well. +3. Only 28% are betting them. That's it so far. Possibly Oakland playing at home to Denver. Actually, looking at that line right now with how Oakland's played in this preseason, obviously it's way too soon to say that, and probably a bad thing. But only 35% are on Oakland -2.5. Appreciate that, Joe. We're slowly getting there. We've put in a lot of work. It's been, we started doing all this stuff back in 2012, but we kind of only started putting it on the internet 2 years ago. And in beginning of season, teams like Oakland, Cleveland Lions would be too overblown. Tennessee or Denver could win those games. Yeah, that's a good point. Especially Tennessee. Tennessee is just such an underrated team and an overlooked team by the public. Yeah, I remember you saying last year you like the first 2-3 weeks. That's kind of where you do your damage because the lines are off. Let's see what we kind of have. According to lines at the beginning of the year are usually off. Yeah. It's tough, right? The bookmakers are going into it with uncertainty as well. Then you play too many games, yeah. Yeah, that's the tough part. As long as you're up at the end of the day. See, this is where it gets tough, is when all our numbers and analysis points towards taking Atlanta +4.5 on the road. We actually have Atlanta as the better team than Minnesota. So to think that Minnesota has a 4.5 point favorite edge is tough. But the percentages are saying to take Minnesota. Yeah, the public loves hard knock teams. Did you watch the first 2 episodes of the Raiders? I actually quite enjoyed them. It's cool to see a guy like Max Crosby, like a 4th round rookie, break his hand going to punch the ball, and the guy's like, who cares? Just a broken hand, tape it up, let me get back out there. You forget how tough some of these guys are. Too much hearing about like Odell Beckham Jr. or like Antonio Brown. You forget that these guys are tough. You like Atlanta against any team? Yeah, it's surprising that Minnesota's 4.5 point favorites against Atlanta. Just seems odd. And then we like Jacksonville as well. +3.5 at home. They're hosting Kansas City. Yeah, both episodes are worth watching. I was actually, after the first episode, I was kind of hoping there was a bunch more, but it looks like the second one just came out last night, or at least that's when I watched it. And I liked both. Yeah, Atlanta, any team getting points, that's true. Especially, there's a lot of home dogs this first week. Teams like Miami, Jacksonville. This is the road teams. Let's just see. Miami, Carolina, Jacksonville, possibly Tampa Bay. ABC is also their own version of Hard Knocks on the Browns as well. Yeah, I watched the first episode and I watched another one. I didn't think it was as good. HBO does such a good job with the sports shows, and like the boxing stuff and MMA. I don't know if they do MMA stuff, but the boxing stuff's always good. And maybe my favorite one was their hockey series. I don't know if you guys are big NHL fans, but being in Canada, you kind of have to be. For the Browns one, they did like the first episode, it was pretty much 20 minutes just Freddie Kitchens. And I don't know about Kitchens there. Technically the roster is good, but Freddie Kitchens is just such an unknown. We don't know what we're going to get from him. That's kind of what worries me, is with the right coach, that Browns team could be really good. And I'm not crazy about any of the attitudes that they brought in. But defensively, like, they have the talent on defense to be good. I couldn't believe only 2 rookies head coach won the Super Bowl. Yeah, and I don't think Freddie Kitchens is going to be there. I think it's crazy to even think, like, I don't know why the Browns are getting hyped up for like a Super Bowl contender. Like, this is a team that could barely win a game last year. Seifert in Dallas. That's the fat guy. He knows that stuff. I don't know. I'm terrible with that stuff. I was surprised they actually went away from Greg Williams, because Greg Williams did an excellent job coaching there last year. And it's not like they couldn't keep Freddie Kitchens on as the offensive coordinator. There's a guy from Dallas. George Seifert. So here's some honorable mentions. It's interesting when you start looking at sheets like this to see, like, only like 12, what is it? It's going to be like 12 or 15 coaches have even gone better than 10 and 5 to start their career. Sean Payton 10 and 6, Cower 11-5, Potsy Clark, who I've never even heard of, 11-3, Dick Rouch, Chuck Knox, Dennis Green. It's pretty impressive from Dennis Green to 11-5 his rookie head coaching season. Steve Mariucci, Mike Tomlin. Guys like Tomlin are less impressive because they inherited a good team. Jim Mora Jr., George Halas, Jim Harbaugh, Madden, John Harbaugh, Barry Schweitzer. Is this who you were talking about? There you go. Yeah, you already said it. 12-4.
And he's one of the best on the Falcons.
And one of the best in the league, one of the best to ever.
And Schweitzer took over after Jimmy Johnson. So that team would have been pretty good, though, that he inherited. Yeah. Smith, Aikman, Michael Irvin. Most rookie head coaches need to learn. Yeah, that's true. Cypher went 14-2. He took over after Bill Walsh, so. It's interesting. It's an interesting way to kind of look at it. One nice thing for me is that all these games today are roughly at the same time, so I don't have to be in front of the screen for like 6 or 10 hours in a row. But I am definitely excited for Sundays when the regular season starts. That's a whole different story. Joe, you gonna do any future betting at the start of the season? On like over/under wins, or the rookies won with established teams, 49ers and 1990 Cowboys. Yeah, I'd hardly call this Browns team an established team, but they're definitely a team that has talent. But to even be considering Super Bowl is crazy. The Browns are my favorite team. I've enjoyed the struggle. I kind of wish they grew more through the draft and less through like big free agency splashes. And I wish they grew more through like a defensive draft. That's kind of my dream, is just to draft like defensive player after defensive player. You can be bad for as many seasons as you want, and then when you get a quarterback like they do with Mayfield, you went to the sportsbook in Atlantic City. I'm guessing you didn't find anything worth betting. I haven't been looking at the lines too much. I'm just more doing as much research as I can, so when we decide to make some plays, we're ready to go. Yeah, I really like that they added Olivier Vernon. Like, Olivier Vernon and Myles Garrett is two of the better edge rushers in the league. And then on the interior, to add Sheldon Richardson to play along two guys that did play well last year is nice. Yeah, you don't like futures, you like game to game. That's interesting. I didn't realize Hines Ward was part of the Jets coaching staff. Yeah, and they even have guys like Jannard Avery. Avery played really well last year. A 5th round pick from last year. Anthony Zettel's been a guy who's been a pro. Chris Smith, but these guys aren't great. And then at linebacker, Schobert, Kirksey, Taki. Mac Wilson looks like the real deal. Like, his interceptions have been impressive, even going back to college. Like, he doesn't seem like a complete player, but man, if he's going to be your third down linebacker, I'm pretty happy with that. This might be a gem. You get a guy like this in the 5th round. Same with Avery, 5th round pick from last year. The drafting's been good for the Browns after it being futile for so many years. Denzel Ward was another really good pick. He's a guy to be excited about. Greedy Williams, still a question mark. We'll see. I can't believe TJ Carey is getting paid $7 million. I just can't go through this Browns roster without pointing that out. To think that, like, he played below average in Oakland, and then they signed him to a $7 million deal to come to Cleveland. I just don't get it. And then at safety, it's whatever. 2 ex-Packers. At least they're experienced. So, Hopefully the defense is good enough. With Garrett and with the pass rushing that they have, it should be really good. And actually, I think those linebackers are going to surprise people. They've got 4 linebackers that can play. It's the secondary outside of Denzel Ward that I'm worried about. Even Greedy Williams in the first preseason game, he had that broken coverage that cost him a touchdown. Every time I see these Jets New Jerseys, I think I'm watching a CFL game. They look like the Saskatchewan Roughriders. I got Ricky Seals-Jones running with the backups. Brett Hundley just dropped a dime to Ricky Seals-Jones in the end zone and just dropped it. 2nd and goal. Now 3rd and goal on the 5. 30 seconds left. If the Browns beat Pittsburgh twice, would be the best thing for me. I'm a fan of the Browns. Fans, but not the Browns team. Yeah, that's... I think we feel very, very similar with that. Like, if you're a Browns fan, like, you're a diehard. But the actual Browns team, like, that's the problem. Like, it's been so bittersweet. Some of these decisions they've made on offense have just kind of killed it. You like the OG Brown fans, though. You don't like the new school fans that are just coming over because they're Odell Beckham fans. There's no way, Joe. Jeez. Keyshawn Johnson did little to no work to try to get open there, the 6th round pick from this year. He's supposed to be running like an inward slant, and he didn't even get out of his break. So kudos to the corner, but I have no clue what Keyshawn Johnson's doing. Somehow not related to the other actual good Keyshawn Johnson. This is crazy too. Arizona has Zane Gonzalez as their kicker. He was 9 for 14 last year. Like, I don't even know how that guy gets a job the year after. You're listening to me and you're picking off CBS and ESPN drafts. Are you doing it with people you know, or are you just doing random leagues? They just pulled up a highlight of Antonio Brown making a catch, improvising, but they showed they showed a highlight of when Joe Hayden was covering him on the Browns. Like, that was like 3 years ago. They couldn't have gotten newer footage of Antonio Brown scoring a touchdown. It's a public league, yeah. Well, hopefully you don't get people leaving through the draft and a bunch of auto drafting. I'm from just south of Vancouver. So on the west, I'm pretty much as far west as you can get and as close to the border as you can get. Whereabouts are you again, Joe? I can't remember off the top of my head. North Carolina, you're tired of the heat? It's been warm here too. But not nearly as warm as I'm sure it is there. ECU Greenville. Oh, it stays hot all the way into December. For some reason, I thought North Carolina and South Carolina were more interior, but you guys are right up against the Atlantic Ocean, huh? But whereabouts you are, it seems like it's like an hour drive to get to the ocean. Oh, nice. We got Randy Moss with some halftime commentary on ESPN. And Teddy Bruschi. Two hours from Outer Banks. Big storms, hurricanes in September. Being from North Carolina, are you a Panthers fan? Or are you more like me, just a fan of the league? What spots did you draft from in both leagues? No worries, you take your time, make your picks. God, don't be sorry, Joe. In Super Bowl 50, Cam showed who he was. Yeah, it's tough. He had such a good season. You were an Eagles fan for 40 plus years and then you moved there? Yeah, that makes sense then. It's not like you're born and raised in North Carolina. 13 years ago, you liked the Pats. Kind of when Brady was just coming into his own. Hey, one guy, what's going on? The scores right now, the Eagles are up 17-3 with 9 minutes left over Jacksonville. Baltimore's up 20-13 near the end of the third quarter. Fortunately, I don't have the scores up for any of the other games, but I'll tell you right as they come along. Yeah, it's pretty weak. If you're gonna be a quarterback, you're gonna fumble and not jump on that ball. But he was defeated. It's just too bad. Redskins Bengals are tied at 13 near the end of the third quarter, and Atlanta's up 10-9 on the Jets. And then I couldn't tell you the exact score, but I can't. Oakland's up 26-10 on Arizona at halftime. What do I think of the Giants? Let's take a look. I've got them winning 5.7 games this season as of now. And we got them coming last in their division. So they'll be winning about 6 games this year. Let's take a look at the over-under win projections. Yeah, so the over-under for them right now is 6 wins. We have them at 5.7, which is pretty close to what their projection is. I'd actually slightly, if I was going to make a bet, I actually do like the bet, the Giants over plus 115. Six wins is doable for that team. Let's take a look at their roster. You got Eli, who's, you missed the prediction show, like our picks for this week. We haven't started making any picks yet. We've kind of been trying to get all our ducks in a row. But we're going to have pick shows coming pretty fast here. You like the Giants to finish second or third because the Eagles will fall once it gets hurt? Yeah, that's a good point, Joe. He didn't stay healthy last year. And they don't have Nick Foles this year to step in. Oh yeah, we haven't made any predictions yet. We've still kind of been perfecting all this stuff in the background, so we just haven't had the time yet to make it. A lot of our time has been put into creating these sheets that we have that we're able to share with you guys, as well as I've been putting a website together so we can have something more official this year for when we do make our picks. So I put this basic site together. I'm still working on it, but you guys will be able to come here and make your week 1 picks for the upcoming season. So I'll just throw that link in there. That way you guys can favorite it, and when the time comes around, you can make your picks. You believe New York goes no less than 8-8? It's hard to predict that. The book's giving them 6 wins, which is probably about fair. A lot of that depends on Eli. You're an Eli fan. He has 2 rings. What more could he have done? Yeah. Historically, he's been great. He just hasn't been the same the last few years. And I don't know if that's age. I don't know if that's like a coaching thing. That just might be the entire team. That offensive line has been terrible. Their offensive line this year is going to be so much better. So much better. Like, Will Hernandez and Kevin Zeitler are 2 excellent guards. And Nate Solder, he played so poorly last year. I think he's going to make a bounce back. There's nothing wrong with Spencer Pulley. He's slightly below average, but he's going to get the job done. And then the only weakness they have is at right tackle with Mike Remmers, which you can get over. Most teams do have bad right tackles. And then on offense, it's going to be interesting to see, like, a lot's going to fall on Barkley, a lot's going to fall on Sterling Shepard, a lot's going to fall on Evan Ingram, but, like, those are some excellent skill position players. I think Daniel Jones will play, but I don't think he's going to be starting any games. Like, if he's starting games, the Giants aren't winning 8 games. Like, just think about how bad Eli would have to play for how long for Jones to even come in and, like, attempt to play a game other than injury. And then at that point, let's put it this way. The Giants aren't going to go like 2-5 and go, okay, we're pulling the plug on Eli. Now it's Daniel Jones. Because that would mean week 8, Daniel Jones will be coming in, and then he's going to have to go like, whatever, 6-3 the rest of the season for them to make that 8-8. I just don't find that likely. If they're like 1-10, and it's because Eli's playing bad, then I see Daniel Jones playing games at the end of the year. And if they are playing well, Daniel Jones isn't going to see the field. So, that one guy, if you're a Giants fan, like, it's kind of like a lose-lose if Daniel Jones is playing. I just find it so unlikely. Awesome, Joe. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're trying to grow slowly. Just put out as much football content as we can. We just find it so tough during the off season to come up with interesting content to talk about. There's so much stuff you can talk about during the off season, but we just don't find it very interesting. Like, other than drafts and free agency and that kind of stuff, like, I could care less about all the rumors and all the other BS that goes on during the off season. That being said about Daniel Jones, he did look really good in that first preseason game, but, like, you need to see more. And who knows what kind of defenses he was going against, as far as, like teams haven't exposed him yet. But arm talent-wise, it's like night and day between Eli and Daniel Jones. I'm a Giants fan, and I hope Jones doesn't start games because of how bad we would need to be. Yeah. So you feel the same way that I do. Like, it's not like the Giants are going to go 4-2 and they're going to be like, let's bench Eli. Like, I guess it could happen, but I just find it unlikely. Eli's going to play until he can't play anymore. They pretty much have to tell him when it's time to give up. But if Daniel Jones just redshirts this year, it's going to be better for him. Awkward moment. They have Arthur Blank up in the studio, up giving commentary, and there was just a big turnover by Atlanta. It looked like the rest of the booth went pretty quiet. 22 on Arizona had some wheels there. I believe that's Chase Edmonds. But sorry, I'll keep going through the Giants roster. I kind of stopped there. That interior D-line is pretty good between Dalvin Tomlinson, BJ Hill, and Dexter Lawrence. On the edge, they have Marcus Gold and Kareem Martin. This is where this isn't very good. You need better edge rushers to sustain this. Alec Ogletree might be the best linebacker they've had in the last 10 years. Like, the Giants have just always had such poor linebackers. At corner, they should be good. Like, they spent another first round pick this year getting DeAndre Baker. So between Jenkins and Baker, that should be a good 1-2 punch at corner. And then they brought in Jabril Peppers, ex-Cleveland Brown. I believe he was part of the Odell Beckham trade, as well as Zeitler. I actually really like the return they got off Beckham, because Peppers is still young. Like, he was still learning, and you could tell he started to kind of get it at the end of last season. And Zeitler's he's one of the best guards in the league. And then between Peppers and Antoine Bethea, like, that's a good safety combo. And then Aldrich Rosas is a really good kicker. So I don't mind him. They're gonna struggle to rush the passer. And like, between Barkley, Sterling Shepard, and Evan Ingram, like, those guys are gonna have to put in a lot of work. But like Rhett Ellison, the blocking tight end, with all these guys, like, it's gonna be. I hope they run the ball a lot. It would be nice to get one more. Like, Rod Smith and Wayne Gallman are good enough, so you can kind of give Barkley some breaks. But I don't know. I guess their biggest question is receiver on offense and right tackle. When Golden Tate comes back from suspension, and if Sterling Shepard is healthy, they'll be all right. That was your next question. Do you think Jones' debut drive was a good taste of what's to come, or a fluke benefiting from a second-team defense? I think it's a little bit of both. I don't think he's going to be like an all-world quarterback this first year. Like, he might not even play. And at the same time, like, you just got to see more. Arm talent, like, the one thing that you can't take away from him is arm talent-wise, he's very, very impressive. Like, arm talent-wise, very, very impressive. So if he can get the mental side of the game, like, that's the kind of... It's exactly like Patrick Mahomes, where the arm talent's there, but being able to redshirt for a year and just kind of understand the game. Like, if he understands the game, he's going to be good, just because of his natural skills. Like, right now, he's essentially the poor man's Jay Cutler, where it's like a hell of an arm, but a complete mystery as to what it's going to be from a mental perspective, like a decision-making perspective. Because there's no question about his arm talent. It's going to be, how can he read defenses? Can he make the throws? Is he tough? Can he stand in the pocket and make those throws? Can he move inside the pocket? Does he have the awareness inside the pocket? Like, these are things I haven't seen. I've just seen highlights of him making those impressive throws. It's tough for me because I don't watch any college football. Like, I might watch some highlights or some game footage of them playing in college after they get drafted, just so I get an idea. But nothing substitute watching actual games, actual NFL games. That's really where you have to make your decisions on a lot of these guys. So far, so good for Jones. A lot of bad publicity, too, when he got drafted. So it was nice to see him have success. Yeah, see, like that's a huge problem. It doesn't matter how much arm strength. That's the same thing with Cutler. Cutler would just stare guys down. And it's something that's it's the fat guy and I talk about this all the time. And it's that when you're just so good at something, like he's got such impressive arm talent for the NFL that think about when he was playing in college, when he was playing in high school, like you can get away with being essentially bad at everything else. But if you can throw that ball in there as fast as he does and as accurately as he does, it doesn't matter. Like if it's a guy like me playing high school football and I'm trying to play corner or safety and stop Daniel Jones, like what am I going to do? I'm not an NFL caliber player. But when you come to the NFL and you're playing against the best athletes in the world, those tendencies, like those things that you've just grown up going, I can throw the ball harder than anybody can run in and intercept it. Like it doesn't matter. You're playing against the best athletes. They're studying you. Like if Jones is staring down guys, that's like one of the most dangerous things you can do. Because as a defense, you really only have to defend one guy. Because after that, it's going to break down. He's not going to be able to come to his second or third options, which is just terrible. That's every young quarterback that struggles. That's the reason. I haven't seen him run the ball. I take it he's not exactly like the most athletic. Like it's not Kyler Murray or Russell Wilson back there either. So it's not like he's going to stare down that one receiver, not have him, put the ball down and run. But it's unfair of me to you got to take me with a grain of salt when I say that because I haven't seen him play. You saw a great YouTube show called Days of Our Steelers. You should check it out. Funny production from POV of a Steelers fan pissed at all the drama from Brown and Bell and Tomlin days. You know what? I heard about that. And I actually was going to check it out and I forgot, so I'm glad you reminded me. Pissed about all the drama. It's tough, huh? I consider Brown the best receiver, and I consider Bell the best running back, so at least for the last few years. It's pretty crazy to think that both those guys are on the same team. Like, man, are those guys difference makers. Especially Bell. To me, Bell is such a special player. I'm so excited that he's back. Joe, how is those drafts going? Do you have any strategy going into this? You said it was your first year doing it. I've had years where I have multiple, like last year I had 3 fantasy football teams. The YouTuber Urinating Tree, he gets really angry at Pittsburgh Drama too. I've heard of Urinating Tree. I think you guys need a hook, funny production to bring attention to your show. Yeah, that's a good point. The fat guy and I aren't exactly media moguls. Like, we're not media first guys. Like, we're just guys like you. Like, we're just like you guys. Like, we're just huge football fans, and we've made this really, we've got a really cool idea that we want to share with everybody. But over the years, we've just struggled to get it out. So the YouTube stuff isn't what we want to be doing. We want to be sharing all this information. This is just our way of becoming public, letting you guys know that we have this stuff ready to go. Last year, you were in 100 teams. Urinating Tree. Yeah, I see he's got a video, How to Destroy a Career 101, starring Martavius Bryant. That's already a funny title. Days of Our Steelers is an excellent name as well. Oh yeah, it's all urinating tree. I see that now. Well, I subscribe to him so I can watch that stuff. Arizona managed to get another, or I think they got a field goal there. So they've cut the lead down. Oakland's up 26-13. 10 minutes left in the third. Phillies up 2 scores. Bengals, Redskins still tied. Jets are up 6 points. Do I think that Cleveland's a little overhyped and maybe even overrated, or you think they'll actually be something to fear for years? I think they're definitely overhyped. And I'm a Browns fan. So they're definitely overhyped. Like, to think about, to even be talking about Super Bowl is silly. Like, they'll be lucky to even make the playoffs. Like, they're going to have to squeak in as like a 6 seed, a 5 seed. If they do win the division, it's going to be because other proven teams just failed. Like, Pittsburgh's still a better team than Cleveland, even without Bell and Brown. Like, I feel a lot of people say, like, oh, they lost these guys that were really good players, and they were the best players at their positions. But those are just, running back and receiver is a position that you can replace. And you have to keep in mind, like, getting rid of those guys technically frees up like $30 million for Pittsburgh that they've spent on other places to get better. So Pittsburgh's still the team to beat in that division. Actually, let me just check. I might be saying all this and it's going to tell you differently based off our projections. But no, I was right. Pittsburgh, we have almost winning 10 games, whereas we have Cleveland closer to 8 wins. Cincinnati at 8 wins as well. Baltimore at 7. Like, that division, Cincinnati and Baltimore aren't that much worse than Cleveland. But, like, Mayfield's going into his second year. He was really good in his first year. Like, he had a successful first year. But to think that he's going to improve that much over his last year is still asking for a lot. Like, yeah, they brought in better receivers than they had, but they had to put a ton of cap into those guys. At tight end, Njoku's already injured, so we'll see if he even is able to play coming into the season. And also behind Landry and behind Beckham, they have got Antonio Callaway, who's an excellent receiver. Like, he's just as good as those other 2 guys, but he's going to be suspended to start the year. So that means Rashard Higgins is going to have to play third receiver role. So outside of Beckham and Landry, they don't have that much as far as pass catching is concerned, at least to start the season. Nick Chubb is excellent. I was so happy when they drafted Nick Chubb, because going into the draft, I was just, Chubb was my favorite running back, and Sony Michel wasn't that far behind, and both of them had excellent seasons, and I was really happy to see that. I was surprised still that the Browns let Carlos Hyde go, and I was even more surprised that they signed Kareem Hunt, but they got Kareem Hunt at one hell of a deal. Like, paying him $1 million is worth it, even with all the struggles. But they've got a lot of attitudes on that team, that's for sure. And that offensive line isn't very good. Like, Greg Robinson might be the worst left tackle in the league that's starting. They lost Zeitler to the Giants, so that was a big loss. They still have Bitonio. Bitonio's excellent. Bitonio's one of the best guards, but otherwise on that line, it's pretty weak. Like, the tackle situation is not good for the Browns. And then when you go to defense, that pass rushing duo between Myles Garrett and Olivier Vernon is going to be scary. And you add Sheldon Richardson, Larry Ugbanjabi. Like, they're going to be good on that defensive line. And they're going to be good at linebacker too. Their front seven is just, it's really good and it's deep. So they've got depth there. Denzel Ward is a really, really good corner. Like, he's a shutdown corner on that side. But then otherwise, the rest of the secondary, I have questions. Well, Giants are basically paying Beckham to catch balls for Cleveland, which I hate. Yeah, but they got 2 good players out of that deal. I wouldn't be too bad. Like, Beckham's an exciting player and a player that fans really like, but he's not that valuable to bring wins to the team. Like, look at how good Beckham was for the Giants, but he wasn't helping them win games. And it doesn't matter if you've got even if you have a guy like Odell Beckham, Antonio Brown, like, if you can't block for your quarterback, it doesn't matter. Like, look how hard it was for Eli the last few years. Yeah, it does suck that they traded him after signing him. I'm not exactly sure about his contract situation. Like, how much did the Giants have to pay for his contract? I'm still kind of like, I'm still learning how the NFL contracts all work. Like, when I look at this, I'm still a little bit confused with how it exactly breaks down. So it says that he has a potential out in his contract in 2020, which he'll probably take, especially if he's already been paid most of his money. Like, his yearly cash is only 14-15 million for the 4 seasons after that. So I take it that he's going to get out of that deal. Probably sign a new one closer to what Michael Thomas just signed, probably like a $20 million deal. The $20 million bucks is a lot of money for any receiver. I don't care how good you are. The thing that's tough with having a really good receiver like that is that those are like the last guys you want to get on your team, like to push for that title. Well, Dallas is kind of screwed. They got to pay both those guys. They got to pay Dak. They got to pay Ezekiel. They're going to have to pay Byron Jones. Like, they've got a lot of guys they need to pay. And the one thing that they haven't done is they haven't found anyone behind Zeke that can kind of take the pressure off of having to sign him. I like Alfred Morris, but he's limited in what he can do. And I don't know enough about their their young running backs. Like, they drafted 2 guys, and then they've got another UDFA who actually looked pretty good in the 2-minute drill in their first week. But, like, I don't know. And the tough thing, too, is that when these guys' value gets so high, it becomes hard to trade them. Like, it's hard to trade these guys because other teams don't want to pay them, too. But there's always going to be a team that's willing to put that money out. I think, but to answer your question, I think Zeke signs before the season starts. This is all just like, the other thing too is a lot of these guys just don't want to go through training camp, don't want to play in the preseason, and I take it Elliott is one of those guys. And to be fair, like, he doesn't need to play. He doesn't even need to be around the team. Like, he's such a good player. As long as he's staying in shape, which there's been prototypical stories about how good a shape he's still in. But Dallas has kind of screwed themselves. Like, they just don't have people behind him that could play. And the other thing too, I was talking about this with Big Dick Donnie on the last stream, is that, like, Dallas is trying to contend right now. Like, this is their window to contend. Like, you've got a really, really good quarterback who's getting paid under $1 million a year. Already, like, huge advantage. Like him, Kansas City, Cleveland. Like, there's a reason why all these teams have such a huge advantage. Seattle for the last few years up until this year. Like, anytime you get a rookie quarterback like that who can play at a level that's higher than what he's getting paid at, like, it's such an advantage, because that's money you could spend everywhere else. That's the silly part of all this too, is that, like, they have the money to pay Elliott. It's not Elliott that's the problem. It's that they need to have the money to pay Dak. That's really what it is. And league-wise, like NFL-wise, Dallas is the most lucrative team. So it's not that they can't afford these guys. It's more cap situations. And they can make plays at other positions in other places, or they can find cheaper replacements and keep those high-end guys. I don't see them not bringing back all 3 of those players. Jerry Jones likes his stars too much. But they'll just have to lose players at other spots. The other thing that's tough about it too, is that the reason why it kind of gets to a stalemate is that the coaching staff is still evaluating 90 players. So they're trying to figure out where are places that they can cut back on money-wise and still get the same or better production. So if there are guys at running back that they feel like can replace Zeke, they get, like, essentially like a 2-3 week window of watching these guys play in the preseason and deciding. So if they feel like they don't have enough, they might even go 1 or 2 weeks in just to see. You said you had Dallas winning our division. I think I still do, but that may be my Eagles hate talking. Yeah, we have Philly winning right now. And a lot of that, I know we did have Dallas quite high as far as the team goes, but Elliott's not there. I'm trying to remember if we have Tyron Smith is injured or not. I think Tyron Smith's healthy. I'm getting him mixed up with Trent Williams. But they're without Zeke, and we added a coaching modifier in. It brought Dallas down quite a bit. We actually had Dallas as the top-rated team for a couple weeks, and then kind of made some adjustments because we weren't happy. And it's not that Dallas is bad. We had them significantly better than other teams, but that's because things that we we value a lot, like offensive linemen, defensive linemen. Like, they've got really good players at all those positions. Like DeMarcus Lawrence, unreal player. Pretty much that whole offensive line for Dallas, all good players. They're all getting paid well. I like how that team's built. I wish they had a little more on defense. Like, if you take out... I'm fine if they get rid of Amari Cooper, if they get rid of Elliott. They need to pay Dak because they just don't have a choice. But if you spend that money on defensive guys, like, Dallas becomes a pretty scary team. I could care less about their skill position players because you can get around that with coaching. It's way harder to get around defensive stuff with coaching. Like, hell, look at Chicago. Like, Chicago was in that same state last year. Like, Dak's a lot better than Mitch Trubisky. But, like, that, on Chicago, that offense isn't very good. Like, they don't have very good players on that offense, whereas that defense is really good. Having good players on defense, you just can't replace. Offensive guys, you can. At least skill position players. So we have Philly winning 10 games. We have the Cowboys winning 9, Washington winning 7, and the Giants winning 6. The Eagles are just such a complete team. There's another team that has really good offensive line, good defensive line. Like, that's the reason, that's the difference between Philly and Dallas and compared to Washington and the Giants. And Washington does have a good offensive defensive line, but if they're not going to pay Trent Williams, which he's refusing to come back, that's a big blow to them. When I said that the Browns had the worst left tackle in football, I was lying, because it's going to be whoever plays for Washington. Actually, I think I might be getting Washington mixed up. It's the Chargers. The Chargers have a guy I've never even heard of playing tackle. Chicago won't be as good. Let's see where we've got them. Yeah, we've got them coming second in that division. We have Minnesota winning it, with Detroit slightly behind them, and surprisingly Green Bay last. But Green Bay's lost some of that depth that they've had over the years. A-Rod's still one of the best, if not the best, quarterback. The Bears are so good on defense, but I think teams are going to be able to figure them out offensively. Nagy kind of had that advantage his first year coming in. So unless Nagy added a bunch of new wrinkles that teams haven't seen, like, they're going to figure them out. Trubisky's just not... He has to make a big leap for that team to be good. And I don't believe in Mitchell Trubisky. The nice thing about Trubisky is his running. Like, his running is actually quite dangerous, surprisingly. But overall, I just don't think that... I don't think that offense is going to surprise as many teams as it did last year. And, like, look at their division. Like, the Vikings and Detroit both have very good defenses. Like, Detroit's defensive, that front seven now is starting to become pretty scary. Green Bay, on the other hand, blah. But you're playing against Aaron Rodgers. It's just going to be tough. But, like, look at how close that division is. We have every team within 0.7 wins of each other. That's going to be a tough division. If you're betting that division, I would definitely be taking the Lions. At 10-1, when essentially we have all teams winning 8 games, I'll take a 10-1 at like a 20% chance. That's a 10% edge. You got to list out your draft, Joe. I got to see what you got in these 2 leagues. I haven't been doing any, I haven't even done a mock draft for like 2 months. I've been too obsessive with mock drafts, I find, the past few years, so I'm trying to hold off and just waiting till the actual draft so I can kind of just go off instinct rather than anything else. You are retired? I'm jealous. I wish I was retired. You're retired so you draft like 5 a day? You set your lineups, but it's hard. Are you doing... So when you said you had 100 teams, are you doing like 100 actual leagues? Navy vet? Oh, nice. Congratulations, Joe. Yeah, that's... I struggled when I had 3 teams going last year. I just struggled with... Like, I'd be starting guys that I'd be playing against in the other 2 leagues. So it's like... You can't even get happy. Guy scores a touchdown and you're like, oh, whatever. That's a net negative. Even though it's a guy I liked and drafted him in the league I could. I have no clue how you're setting 100 starting lineups. That's crazy. I would just stick to betting. I think the fat guy and I's plan this year is to find as many like office pools as we can close by. I think that's how we're kind of just trying to strategize what's the best way to make a return for what we're doing. 10 on CBS and 30 on ESPN. That's what the fat guy and I should do, is we should start a fantasy league with like our main fans. You make up email addresses and you play eliminator games. Oh, that's good. Yeah, we've got a league that does eliminators too. We've actually got this survivor picker right here. It'll tell you what's the best team to pick each week. So, week 1 I got the Cowboys over the Giants. Sorry one guy. How do I feel about the LA Rams? Do I feel better? Do I feel worse? I think they take a dip a bit. Coordinators have figured out McVay, right? I like to play survivor pools. I played you in a pick'em game. Oh, that's good. How do I feel about the Rams? I think the Rams are just going to be really good. It's interesting that for some reason, I just feel like the Rams were less gimmicky than Chicago. And I think that's why I like the Rams. The Rams kind of got exposed in that there's a contest called Last Man Standing. The winner gets $25,000 diamond ring. That's wild. Why is the diamond ring? Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're going to have the pick'em game this year, too. I'm going to post all the standings on BigRyanTheFatGuy.com. I just feel like I like McVay better as a coach than I like Nagy. And I don't know if I could tell you exactly why. I just believe that McVay has longer standing. Whereas Nagy, to me... But Nagy comes from the Andy Reid tree, and Andy Reid is... People haven't been able to figure him out either. But Reid's done such a good job of like reinventing himself year to year. Like, he adds things in that kind of keeps defenses on edge. I don't know. Nagy might really surprise us. How come a guy from Canada likes American football? I don't know. I love football. I love the strategy behind it. I just love watching teams. I love watching like the coaching aspect of it. and just the athletes. I love running backs. The fat guy always jokes that I'm like the Nostradamus of running backs. I haven't had too much of a chance to actually watch over like a lot of the running backs coming into the season, so I think I'm gonna have to get NFL Game Pass pretty soon and watch through all these games a lot closer than I have so far. It's just too hard to keep up with watching 5 games at once and knowing who's on the field. I'm a big hockey fan. I'm lucky enough to have access to Vancouver Canucks season tickets, but they just haven't been good lately. I'm more of a football fan than a hockey fan, but I also love all the strategy-based stuff in the background, like betting football, betting hockey, fantasy football, pick'em leagues. That's the stuff that I really enjoy. Any way to kind of like figure out that edge to be competitive and to find ways to make money. That's the part I like. I've watched a lot more hockey growing up. Like if I watch hockey, I can dissect stuff a lot better than I can football just because I've watched so much more hockey, but I'm getting there with football. I just love how football's structured. Like, I love how the seasons are structured. You play 16 games. Every game matters. It's tough to watch an 82 game schedule and take every hockey game seriously. Oh, we got a pick 6 from the Jets in the last 2 minutes. Top sleeper teams in AFC and NFC. Well, let's go back to these season projections. You pretty much have to look here and see where where do you get surprised first. I think the Jets, if I look at this list here for AFC, New England's not a surprise. Kansas City's not a surprise. You might argue Pittsburgh's a surprise because people are hyping up Cleveland so much. We actually have them coming third in the AFC. The Chargers are a good team. So there's your first wild card team. Indy's a good team. Like, Indy might be able to count as a surprise. But to me, if I had to look at this list, the Jets are a surprise. Uh-oh. That one guy doesn't want to hear that the Broncos are a sleeper. Or no, that's Big Dick Donnie. Big Dick Donnie doesn't want to hear that. He was talking earlier about how much he wants Flacco to fail. I'm surprised by the Jets too, but they've got Darnold, they've added BAL, like they've added lots of good pieces. Just remind me to come back here. I guess the best way to look is this odds set, right? They're 40-1 to win in the division, and we only have them 2.2 games off. They're actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like, we have them as the 7th seed right now. Like, they could slip into the playoffs according to our projections. And then we come over to the NFC. The Rams, Saints, Eagles, those are all pretty common. I guess the Falcons you could throw in as the first sleeper. This list I made, Joe, I've actually made like a prototype that I'd be able to share with you that you could enter in your own information. If you're interested in getting one, just email me. Because if you're interested in it, I'll put one together and then I can email it back to you. So Joe, right now, I've created these sheets in Google Sheets, which I know how to use really well. So what I've done is I've created ones that I can share with you and other subscribers. But I was just trying to put in kind of like the final touches. But how this sheet will work is you'll be able to pull up this sheet here. And you could just enter in how many wins you think each team will have. So kind of like you're setting like where you'll be setting like essentially what you think the strength of that team is. So if you think the Falcons are better than the Saints, then you'll rank the Falcons as a 10 and you'll rank the Saints as a 9-win team. So that's what this stuff is over here. So anything you see that's in this orange, you can edit. And yeah, those other odds are odds I've taken from, I believe, Pinnacle or Bet Online. I can't remember exactly. But those are numbers that we can change to whatever's the live numbers. Yeah, I skipped over what you said earlier. I was a blackjack dealer and slot machine tech and a cage cashier in Atlantic City. Worked at Trump Plaza Casino. That's pretty awesome. I was pretty close to working in a casino before I found the job I'm doing right now. No, I'm cool with betting. Lost 4K at blackjack in AC on July 4th. That sucks. I think I got these from Bet Online a while back. But the whole idea behind this sheet is you put in your win projections, kind of like the strength of that team. And then you'll be able to see how well they do game to game. So this is an example of Denver has a 38% chance of beating Oakland. You'd see that they have a 48% chance of beating Chicago at home, etc., etc. Then you can compare weekly schedules. So we have Chicago 64% chance of winning on Thursday versus 35% for Green Bay. We have this Survivor stuff, so you'd be able to do that. You met Trump in 92 and you're 6'3" and he was taller? Really? I've never, I actually have no clue what Donald Trump's height is. Yeah, it says he's 6'3". He's probably wearing some heels. But that's pretty cool you got to meet him. And then this section here is kind of the reason why I haven't released it yet, is I'm still trying to figure out the exact method I want to use for the bankroll management for people. But you can enter in, you know, whatever you got. If you've got a $4,000 bankroll and you want to be kind of half as aggressive, you can see what you'd be betting on some of these games. That one guy wasn't even born in 92. Yeah, I would have been pretty young in 92. I'm with you. You could be wrong, it was a long time ago, yeah. Well, guy, you're 20, so you're born, what, 99? It's hard to call myself a pro, but we definitely put enough work into it to be considered a pro. I just love doing all this, all the behind the scenes math stuff, so that's where all this comes in. And then the last thing that's pretty neat that we've got is the playoff projection. So it'll show you how, when you put all this stuff in, it'll give you projections on who you have making the playoffs, where they're seated, and what their chances are. So yeah, we do have Cleveland technically making it in as the 6th wild card, but even as the 6th wild card, they have less than a 1% chance of winning the Super Bowl. You moved to North Carolina strictly for the gambling stuff? Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I feel like you could have picked a better place in North Carolina. Get a woman before you lose your bankroll. That one guy, you gotta listen to him. That's words of wisdom from Joe. He probably had to learn the hard way. Lucky for me, I've found a wife, so I'm safe. This town is called G Vegas. Which town's called G Vegas? And what does that mean, Joe? Oh, Greenville, North Carolina. ECU is here? Yeah, so it must be a party city. G Vegas, city in the eastern part of North Carolina, Greenville, about 70 miles away from the coast, 80 miles to the east of Raleigh. Lots of clubs, bars, parties, and sin. Anything goes, all lifestyles accepted, etc. A town of sin in the middle of the Bible Belt, a growing college town with a Met population of over 140,000. It's one of the fastest growing cities in North Carolina. Sorry, Eastern Carolina University. That's my bad. Yeah, I don't know my US colleges. That's where my knowledge runs short. Joe, were you excited about any of the picks you made? I guess you got so many leagues you could care less. You probably don't even look at those rosters after the draft. You need some sort of algorithm that can go automatically make all your starting decisions for you. We get Peterman to Keelan Doss, Keelan Doss is one of the guys highlighted in the second episode of Hard Knocks. 5 targets, 5 receptions tonight for 38 yards. It seemed like John Gruden genuinely liked him. Nice, you had the first pick, you picked Barkley. You got a quarterback in the 10th round. What quarterback did you get? When I was talking to Big Dick Donnie earlier, he was aiming to get Kyler Murray in the 11th round. So I'm curious who you got in the 10th. Or who's around in the 10th round. The only league I'm in right now, the fat guy and I are in together, and it's a keeper league. Barkley. It's going to be Barkley or Elliott, just depending on if Elliott returns. But that one guy, I'll be able to tell you a lot more accurately once we get all this stuff done. Nice, you got Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's a nice quarterback to have for fantasy. He's very, very consistent. You're not in a keeper. Yeah, so the fat guy and I are in a keeper league, and I was lucky enough to win last year. But I essentially traded away like my first 6 picks so I could guarantee victory. And so the thing that's interesting for me going into this year's draft is I only have picks after the 7th round. So it's going to be tough. I'm going to have to find some diamonds in the rough. Yeah, Wilson's... To me, Wilson's in the top 3 for quarterbacks. Yeah, that's crazy that Patrick Peterson's suspended for the first 6 games. That's a shitty guy to lose. This Carolina team, or sorry, this Arizona team can't afford to lose talent. You got Josh Allen too. Josh Allen put up some good quarterback games last year. Yeah, Murray's going to be starting for sure. You can't. That's it. That's actually a really good question. How do you factor injuries? Because the Fat Guy and I just started doing this, we don't have an answer for you. But you kind of just have to assume that a lot of the fantasy stuff we do assumes is just matching you against peers in your position. So like we only care about running backs compared to other running backs. And you kind of just have to assume that people have an equal chance of getting injured. Because they do. Like no matter how much you feel like a guy has injury history versus another, it's still random. The one thing I will say is you do get guys that are a lot tougher than others. That's the kind of stuff that you have to watch out for. But usually that's built into the odd set because we're using odds. Like we're finding odds to see where certain numbers are set. Will any rookie quarterback start? It's probably just Murray. Daniel Jones isn't going to start. Well, he's unlikely to start. And Dwayne Haskins is unlikely to start. It looks like it's going to be Case Keenum. Do the Fat Guy and I have a betting business? I wouldn't say we have a betting business. We have we're creating a business. The reason why the Fat Guy and I are doing all of this is we want to create a site that takes a huge amount of football fans, takes their opinions, puts it through algorithms like this, and gives them projections. And then with those projections, they can compete against each other. They can use it for whatever strategy-based games they have, whether it's fantasy football, whether it's a pick'em league, whether they're betting on games. It's really up to you what you use it for. But the idea behind it is that we create as many tools as we can for people to use. Because we find that there's a lot of tools out there that tell you how to do it. How do we factor in injuries for future betting in the NFL? You can't. That's just how it goes. Like when it comes to future bets, there's not much you can. There's not much that you can do. With the stuff that we do have, though, the second an injury takes place, I can tell you how much it affects the team and how much it would affect their future bets. But I can't predict who's going to get hurt. I wouldn't say I'm a math wizard. I just really enjoy this stuff and I'm good at a couple things. And we've been doing this for such a long time that we've just put a lot of pieces together to try to make it as we feel as accurate as possible. Yeah, I remember you saying that you don't like that you can't factor in those injuries, but to me, there's not like a huge advantage or disadvantage with that. Injuries happen. If anything, Joe, you should be looking at teams with high over-under totals and betting the unders because of injuries. Like, do you think the Patriots are still going to be an 11-12 win team if they lose Brady? Probably not. I know they won 11 games without him that one season, but it's not likely. If anything, you should find those teams that have really high totals and bet the unders, because I don't think a lot of people factor in injuries to those totals. Especially, it's a really good way to think about if you have teams with high-end players, they're more likely to come down if something happens. You went to card counting school and learned from man who first beat AC and Ken Huston. right about betting unders. Yeah, just if that's your theory, then that's the best thing to do. Yeah, card counting's interesting. The fat guy's more into that kind of side, of stuff, like the mass side and like the overall gambling aspect. I pretty much just stick to sports betting and sports gambling. So card counting, not my thing. He's always wanted me to do it. He thinks I'd be very, very good, but I've got enough stuff on my plate. Yeah. Yeah, unders and pop teams like the Raiders. Like, let me take a look and just double check to see. Because we do have over-unders. I'll tell you what the best under bet we have. So the best under bet we have is Green Bay. And can you think of a more popular team than Green Bay? Chicago as well. We have Chicago, almost a full win under. Jacksonville, unfortunately, and Jacksonville is a team that I like. Yeah, you get... Anytime you win big like that, you just feel like you're invincible. But blackjack's a tough game. That's a game over the long term you're just not going to win. But you could definitely have those hot streaks like you did and win 30K. We actually have Oakland pretty high on this list. We have them 0.2 wins over, but any team that's within 0.2 wins, I'm just not going to touch. We have them winning 6.2 games and they're over under 6. But this is what makes it interesting, is that their over is plus 130. So if you want to bet the Raiders under, you have to lay minus 150. At least according to these numbers. These numbers aren't live, so I'd have to do it if I was going to make a bet. I'd update it. Raiders are up 20 with 3 minutes, 50 seconds left. So this game's pretty much done. You guys kept me so entertained with all these questions today that I actually didn't watch too much of the games. Yeah, last year we went through every single team and we went over under. And we might do it. We might do it for the start of the year. It really just depends on how much time the fat guy and I get together to be able to make the content we do. Right now we've been focusing on doing these live streams to be able to learn about the league at the same time. But I don't know, it's tough to kind of watch these games and study while talking with chat. I think we talked about doing an over-under, but doing like a more just like one video and do the complete over-unders, because we did 32 last year. Yeah, thanks for signing up for that bell, man. That helps us a lot. I find it strange more people don't watch. Like right now it says I've got 4 people watching. You know, to have 2,000 subscribers and only 4 people watch, I guess YouTube isn't really known for their live stuff. But I think we're going to do just one big video this year rather than a 32. Yeah, thanks, Joe. Yeah, you're always welcome to join us. It's way more fun when we have people to talk football with. And it'll be even more fun with the fat guy here. One of the backup Raiders D tackles just made a really nice play, got a good hit on the quarterback. I didn't catch the number. Yeah, that's true. People are watching the games. It's really nice in Vancouver. It's pretty... The temperatures here are pretty moderate. It's 22 degrees Celsius, so Fahrenheit that's 72. Humidity is 60% here. So it's not too much different than where you are. We're about 10 degrees cooler Fahrenheit wise, and you're 76% humid, we're 60% humid. Oh, beautiful touchdown by Arizona. Andy Isabella with the touchdown. So Andy Isabella is the second round pick from this year, making a big play. That one guy, you're in New York and it's warm there as well. Yeah, you guys aren't too far apart. New York, it's, yeah. New York is about the same as Vancouver right now. I'm just using Google to convert back and forth. I forget what the exact calculation is. You pretty much times Celsius by 2 and then you add 32. So Andy Isabella is lightning fast, and he showed it on that play. So for Celsius, if it's 22, 22 times 2 is 44. And you add 32, and that's what, 76? That's pretty much what it would be. It's 9 out of 5 instead of times 2, but it does the work. Joe, I'm going to be back on solo tomorrow night for watching these games. And then Fat Guy and I will be together on Saturday and Sunday. Or sorry, I'm going to be solo Friday, Saturday. Fat Guy will be on Sunday and Monday with me. So feel free to stop by if you're not doing anything. But I'm actually going to jump off too. This game's just about to finish. I've got some company waiting for me. But I wanted to thank you guys. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, that one guy. I appreciate you guys. And we're going to do some fun things this year. Hopefully you guys can compete in the pick'em. And yeah, the live streams are way more fun because we can be a lot more casual and you guys can just ask us things you're interested in. You know what I should probably do is I should probably edit up all the fun stuff we talked about, and then I could post that. But that one guy, do exactly what Joe did. Hit the bell. That way you probably already do. If you guys are here, you probably hit the bell. And then just make sure you guys visit there and favorite it. Well, I have no clue if it's working. I'm still kind of working on putting it all together. But favorite that, because that's where you guys are going to be making your picks all year and seeing where you are in the standings. But I'll catch you guys later. You guys have a good night. I'll see you guys tomorrow. That's pretty cool, one guy. I appreciate it. You guys have a good night.